So despite what we have heard a president say, Coloradans know that voting by mail is successful and it is safe. 1.5 million Coloradans did it just last night for the primary. A record 45% turnout, fueled by unaffiliated voters who now don't have to be part of a party in order to get down on primary night. Politics guy Marshall Zellinger digs into other numbers that show us how and where Colorado's crucial Senate race will be decided.
Since we're lacking sports, we'll have to do with this. November 3rd, it's a Senate race between two undefeateds. Republican Senator Cory Gardner, 5-0, appointed to the state house, elected at the ballot twice, followed by 2 congressional wins and a Senate term in 2014. His challenger, Democrat John Hickenlooper, 4-0-1. 2 wins for Denver mayor, 2 gubernatorial wins, and that no decision while running for president. Gardner versus Hickenlooper for the U.S. Senate. Okay, when Gardner beat then-Senator Mark Udall in 2014, here's what the statewide map looked like. The red-colored counties are the ones Gardner won handily. Blue represent Udall's strongholds. The red and purple stripes show close results that favored Gardner. Blue and purple favored Udall. And 3 counties, Jefferson, Larimer, and Pueblo, were neck and neck. That same year, Hickenlooper won re-election as governor. Watch the purple in Jefferson, Larimer, and Pueblo. Areas where Gardner was close, Hickenlooper did much better. But that was 2014, before President Trump.
It is a much bigger weight on his chances. It's a headwind for him. The president is not, by any means, a positive for Cory Gardner. He is a negative, especially these last couple of weeks. And anybody that denies that has their head in the sand.
David Flaherty runs Magellan Strategies, a conservative polling firm based in Louisville. He knows data, which is why I showed him another map comparison I made. On the left, the 2014 Gardner map, pre-President Trump. On the right, the 2018 statewide election between Jared Polis and Walker Stapleton for governor, post-President Trump. In 14 counties, Polis, the Democrat, shifted support either fully blue or closer to blue.
Granted, Walker Stapleton also faced the headwinds of perhaps Donald Trump not being popular in our state in 2018. With all due respect to Walker Stapleton and his team, I would not even compare that effort to what I anticipate to be a much of a better, stronger effort from Cory Gardner. And the candidate matters, with all due respect.
For Next, I'm Marshall Zellinger.